we share the following statement from the First Presidency of the Church. Brothers and sisters, since the temple endowment was first administered in this dispensation, occasional adjustments have been made by the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, acting unitedly in their capacity as prophets, seers, and revelators. Upon seeking the will of the Lord and after solemn prayer in the upper room of the Salt Lake Temple, the Lord has again revealed inspired adjustments to the temple ceremonies. These adjustments, which you will notice during your worship experience in the temple today, will bring harmony to the way men and women make covenants with God. They deepen our understanding of His will and His relationship with His daughters and sons. These modifications do not affect the sacred and eternal covenants associated with the saving and exalting ordinances of the temple. As a reminder, due to the sacred nature of all temple ordinances, the fact and the content of these changes should not be discussed outside of the temple. May you feel the Lord's love as you serve in His holy house.
Brethren and sisters, we welcome you to the temple and hope you will find joy in serving in the house of the Lord this day. Those of you who are here to receive your own endowment should have been washed, anointed, and clothed in the garment of the holy priesthood. For those who are representing deceased persons, the ordinances of washing, anointing, and clothing in the garment of the holy priesthood, together with the ordaining on behalf of deceased brethren, were performed previously. Each of you should have received a new name in connection with this company. If any of you have forgotten the new name or have not received these ordinances as explained, please stand. Please be alert, attentive, and reverent during the presentation of the endowment. As you are asked to proceed to the veil, please do so in an orderly manner, row by row, as directed. After passing through the veil into the celestial room and in other areas in the temple, if you need to communicate, please whisper, thus helping us maintain the quiet reverence that should prevail in the house of the Lord. We will now proceed with the presentation of the endowment. Brethren, you have been washed and pronounced clean, or that through your faithfulness you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation. You have been anointed to become hereafter kings and priests unto the Most High God, to rule and reign in the house of Israel forever. Sisters, you have been washed and pronounced clean, and anointed to become hereafter queens and priestesses in the new and everlasting covenant. Brethren and sisters, if you are true and faithful, the day will come when you will be chosen, called up and anointed, kings and queens, priests and priestesses, through the holy order of matrimony in the new and everlasting covenant, hereafter to rule and reign in the house of Israel forever. Whereas you are now anointed only to become such. The realization of these blessings depends upon your faithfulness. You have had a garment placed upon you, which, you were informed, represents the garment given to Adam and Eve when they were found naked in the Garden of Eden, and which is called the garment of the holy priesthood. This you were instructed to wear throughout your life. You were informed that it will be a shield and a protection to you, inasmuch as you do not defile it, and if you are true and faithful to your covenants. You have had a new name given unto you, which you were told never to divulge nor forget. This new name is a key word, which you will be required to give at a certain place in the temple today. Your endowment is to receive all those ordinances in the house of the Lord, which are necessary for you, to enable you to walk back to the presence of the Father, passing the angels who stand as sentinels, being enabled to give them the key words, the signs and tokens pertaining to the holy priesthood, and gain your eternal exaltation. If you proceed and receive your full endowment, you will be required to take upon yourselves sacred obligations, the violation of which will bring upon you the judgment of God, for God will not be mocked. If any of you desire to withdraw, rather than accept these obligations of your own free will and choice, you may now make it known by raising your hand.
Travis went good zone. Been a while since I've been able to do a church news video, as we just had a weekend, and they really didn't have much. I mean, yeah, I can make stuff up, but your lives are all in danger, so it's important to help you see the danger you're in, so that you can rescue yourself. The church is allowing people to see the updates of the inside of the temple now, Salt Lake Temple. It was supposed to be finished for April conference, as it was their intention to have this year for the coming of Jesus to murder everybody. And it is their plot to murder Mormons here in this valley, so that the church can claim victimhood, not any different than Islam with the Gazan people. Islam caused the attack against Israel and are holding hostages, and so every time Israel tries to find the hostages and take out the leaders of the terrorist Hamas, Israel always keeps getting blamed. And so the suffering of the so-called civilians of Islam were caused by the parents of those children, by the leaders of the religion of Islam, as those so-called civilians are giving aid and comfort to the terrorists holding hostages still to this day. And so, yes, this was the church's plan to do to you, Mormons. They are the Danites. And they framed and blamed Joseph, and all ex-foe nevermos fell for it. So, when we go into the temple to receive our endowments, it's been altered. Joseph Smith intended it to just be washing and anointings, for which you now take upon yourself the name of Christ to become a Christ in preparation for the coming of the Christ of prophecy and revelation of the Jewish scriptures, and thus the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith's visionary accounts and other scriptures, prophecies and parables for you. And of course the Danites, led by Brigham Young, turned it all Christian, made it abominable. And so Brigham Young is the one who added the endowment ceremony. And he never wanted it known, and claimed religion to cover up and hide his secret combination from the United States of America. And for the heathens who are not allowed in the temple without being worthy according to his standards, which he added the necessity of being a tithe payer in order to be worthy to go in. It's part of the priestcraft extortion racket that he set up with Section 119. And so, in a sense, Mormons who do go to the temple to receive their endowments under Brigham Young are threatened with a death penalty. And now, since 1991, it's just a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. And you're threatened. It's a religious threat. Jesus is going to murder you. You won't be saved. You won't be exalted. You'll be separated from your loved ones and your family. And you'll be cut off from the church, and then you'll be kicking pricks for the rest of your life. And so the word secret is thrown out, and the church says sacred. It's the same word. Sacrament, consecrate, secret, sacred, sacral, sacrifice. Secrete is different. That's from the other definition of secret, in which something that is hidden is then discharged, secreted. But nonetheless, you see the root word involved in all of that. And that meaning of SCR is holy. And so a sacrament is something that is holy, a ritual that is holy. And thus Catholics have multiple sacraments, whereas the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints only has the sacrament of the Last Supper, the bread and water for church. And so yes, Mormons can get confused and get humiliated on their missions if they do not know the Christian understanding of sacrament. Because Christians will then ask you, which sacrament? There's only one. Mormons are so stupid. They think there's only one sacrament. And so, sacrifice is the second law in Brigham Young's edited version. Brigham Young had some original stuff that had to be toned down. For example, Brigham Young had blood atonement, not just the death penalties. And also death to America. And even though he was the one responsible for assassinating Joseph Smith, paying the Judas price and sending in his 2 agents, Willard Richards and John Taylor, to make sure it got done, he nonetheless, to the rest of Mormonism, blamed the mob, and then thus blamed the United States of America to justify it, so that he can claim to be the victim. Then he fled the country into this valley. And then the United States was kicking the pricks and took over Brigham Young's kingdom. And the church will never acknowledge that Brigham Young established his kingdom in this valley, even though they throw it around all the time. They just never admit it in Wikipedia. They call it the state of Deseret. He established the state of Deseret. No, it was the kingdom. It was intended to be Zion. And Zion was overthrown the very next year when Mexico seceded the territory to the United States. So the United States had it designated as Utah territory, which obviously was bigger than the state of Utah. And they sent a letter to Brigham Young saying, "We understand you're a leader out there. You are offered the first governorship of the territory of Utah." And so from king to governor, he got dethroned. And so he was passed. And so it was in the temple that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints holds their weekly meetings until the renovation began. And then they had to do it in their administration building. And the reason why is because they were keeping secrets, not sacred stuff, that they don't want anybody else knowing. And so when it got leaked, one particular meeting through Mormon leaks, covered by the Salt Lake Tribune, we got an idea of why they don't want those meetings known. It's because they're hate mongers. But also, it involves their plotting to overthrow the government. And if you hadn't paid attention, because you hadn't been following me, and for some weird reason YouTube finally allowed you to see that my channel exists by one video, I've already been doing all the research and I've figured it all out. And then last week, YouTube was mocking me by recommending a Mormon channel. And I thought, let's check it out. And sure enough, it was by a Mormon guy who has the hots for a Mormon girl who's a returned missionary. And he was promoting her and her YouTube channel. And he was discussing in his video what she had leaked from a meeting in her mission field in Las Vegas on the 14th of March 2020, in which Oakes confessed that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is intent on overthrowing the United States of America, and that 2020 was the test run. And so what happened in 2020? Murder. I did this morning's video covering the number that's over 47,000 Utahns murdered by this church. And then, of course, the coup. And so here we go again. This is it. This is what the church has been plotting and planning, hiding in their temples to lie in wait for the latter days when they would be activated to destroy this government and use Mormons as slaughters on the altar to claim to be victims and get their kingdom back. And so in the way to perfection that I had finally found at the end of 2021 after the October conference, which before that October conference in 2021, I found the church's connection to the secret band of Gadianton in the United States of America, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was in charge of it, orchestrating everything to coup America since 1981. And if you don't understand how to recognize a coup, it's real simple. If you're doing a YouTube channel and YouTube prevents your freedom of speech, that is part of the coup that the church is doing to overthrow the Constitution. And so yes, YouTube is part of the coup. Google, Microsoft, all part of the coup. Because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints controls them through the stock market and through other financial connections. And so in Joseph Fielding Smith's Way to Perfection, he too, again, as another testament to the coup, then says, the world will not know of it because it's a secret combination. The members of the church will not know of it because you are the fodder for the fire. The world cannot know of it, the saints cannot know of it, because it's a secret combination. A secret combination is an altered definition. It is not a holy combination. It is intentionally hidden so that they can commit crimes and allow others to get away with their crimes, with their secret words, secret names, secret signs, secret underwear. That's also part of it. Your underwear is the symbol of your bondage to this secret combination that you are not allowed to tell. The 5 laws, as they've dropped the blood atonement and they've dropped the death to America, but they still explain the coup that is coming. And so the first one is the law of obedience. Men have to obey the church leaders. Who speaks for Jesus? Exactly. Women have to obey their husbands. I'm very well aware of 2019. You've not been watching my 8,000 videos where among the top 5 are 2 of the ones where I covered it. Where are those other people that were watching those top videos of mine? Where have they gone? Did you seriously not believe? And you left and abandoned me? Yeah, what about now? Where are you now that everything has been fulfilled? I warned you in advance and everything happened. This is the fate of Mormons for their unbelief. All I'm doing is trying to save your lives, and yet there are still Mormons who will not be saved, who purposely cut them off from being saved and want to be utterly destroyed, who want the church to use them so that they get their kingdom back, to murder them to get the church's kingdom back, just like a kamikaze or an Islamist terrorist who blows himself up for Allah so that he can get 72 child bride virgins in their paradise. So, women, you still have to obey your husband. Follow it through. If the husband has to follow the living prophet of Jesus who speaks for Jesus, so too do you. And what does he tell women to do? Follow the family proclamation. What does the family proclamation tell you to do? Obey your husband, but you're an equal partner. Isn't that great? Just like a psychologist telling you to get over it. Don't you feel better now? The patriarchs purposely abuse women. They manipulate their feelings, not just abusing them through their feelings, but also placating their feelings to get women to shut up. And then the law of sacrifice, where you have to murder yourself to keep the church from getting prosecuted for their crimes. I've got the clips. Remember? 8,000 videos. You can't lie to me to tell me the church is somehow true. It's bad enough that you're illiterate and you don't understand that Jews are not Christians. And that Joseph Smith said Christians are abominable. But nonetheless. So then the law of the gospel. Nelson did make a change on that one too. The higher law of Jesus. There's no such thing in Scripture other than Bruce R. McConkie's chapter heading in the Book of Mormon. You can't find it. Because if you actually were literate, Jesus, in that particular passage in the Book of Mormon, that Bruce R. McConkie put the higher law of Jesus, the Jesus character says, I am not here to destroy, but to fulfill the law. The law is Deuteronomy, the Jewish Christ, not the Christian Jesus. Thus it's a prophecy using Jesus as the name of the Jewish Christ, Emmanuel. But nonetheless, there is no higher law. The law is the law. There's nothing higher than it. The Christ is to come and fulfill the prophecies and revelations of the law, a man like Moses, a descendant of King David, whose name is Emmanuel. And so that's your Christ, Mormons, in case you forgot that that's what Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon have been teaching you. Where is he? Where could he possibly be? Dumbasses all. And so then also still remains, you can't criticize the leaders of the church, even though it says anointed and I'm anointed and you're not supposed to criticize me. But that's not what they mean. Leaders of the church have purposely defined it as leadership, not priesthood holders, generally, or those who go through the temple, and thus women can't be criticized either. And then the law of polygamy now. Nelson has restored it. Are Mormons obeying? Are you? Are you first wives giving your husband more women to breed with? How's that going for your obedience to the living prophet of Jesus? Are you husbands being obedient and destroying your first wife if she won't give you other women to breed with? Are you obeying the living prophet of Jesus? Or do you not even go to the temple? You weren't listening during the law of chastity because you think it just has to do with sexual relations of the thoughts you have for the women at the office. And so you don't want to listen. Yeah, you secretly desire to have multiple wives, but you don't actually go through with it like the living prophet of Jesus tells you to. And then the law of coup. Consecration has nothing to do with consecrating, making holy your life and everything you do in Zion. It's now you are a slave to the kingdom. Everything you do has to be given to build up the kingdom. And then you get only what you need to survive to continue being a slave. See how they've destroyed the definitions of words to hold you in bondage? You're supposed to make yourself holy. You're supposed to perfect yourself. Your washing and anointings was supposed to be your completion, your perfection. You know, the commandment, be therefore perfect. And yet the church tells you after your initiatories that you still need to repent and you still need to pay the atonement price to Jesus, and that you have to do it for the rest of your life because you will never be perfect in this life. You owe him far greater than you could ever pay him. And if you are not getting paid enough, you need to get a better job and pay more for your 10%. See, they don't want you paying more than 10%. They don't want you paying less either. But you pay more by getting a better job and more income. Just like gangs and criminal organizations that demand extortion money from you. That if you don't make your payments, then you need to get that money through criminal activity to make more payments. So, I guess there's no PG movies that help explain criminal organizations to you. I guess there was a Mormon movie called Living Next Door to the Mob or something like that. So because it's a Mormon movie, you don't really understand mob behaviors. You just think that they're misunderstood. Oh, they're good people too. Oh, they're joining the church in the Book of Mormon. Their lives are changed forever, and now they're paying the extortion to the church. There are those who, Daniel, he claims that he was a part of a gang down in Southern California, and then he went through a 40-day fast. No food, no water for 40 days. And then after he, finished, all of a sudden he had a new enlightenment. And so now he's a faithful Mormon paying tithing to the church. Having been a former gang member. Why people can't make the connection, I will never know. I will never know. So, that's it. I'm not really wanting to talk for hours. But the law of chastity, the higher law of Jesus, is polygamy. Section 132. As Joseph, section 76, talks about 3 kingdoms of glory and talks about the highest kingdom of glory having 3 degrees, which I think is actually the other, is it 131? Yeah, I think it's 131. Which would be the Joseph talking to Benjamin Franklin Johnson and the one wife that Joseph knew about, whereas Benjamin Franklin Johnson actually had plural wives that he was banging as a member of the Danites. And that's just being hacked, being spied on anyway. Yeah, so section 131 only contains 8 verses in our published versions by the church. It was massively gutted by Brigham Young when he put it in the final year before he died. And notice, it's in May 1843. When was Joseph accused of practicing polygamy? Oh, look, July 12th, 1843. Oh, this is in relation to the date of when the Danites framed and blamed Sidney Rigdon's daughter for being married and raped by Joseph, which never happened. But then there was all these other women who were raped, but not by Joseph, by other Danites. And those Danites threatened those women to write in their journals about how it was Joseph the whole time. And that's why 1843 is used. And then Brigham Young would come out in 1874 and say Joseph was too stupid to come up with the law of polygamy. That was mine. Section 132 is Brigham Young's fingerprint. Linguistic pattern. And so yes, Brigham Young removed section 101 on monogamy from the 1835 edition. And then this church lied to CNN, who did Fast Facts of Mormonism, and said that section 132 on polygamy was put in Joseph's Doctrine and Covenants in 1835. And CNN could have simply checked the Joseph Smith papers to do research, and they didn't, and they lied, spread the lies of the church to the world. But no, there's a big gutting of Joseph talking to Benjamin Franklin Johnson, saying that your one and only one wife, because Joseph Smith was excommunicating anybody practicing polygamy, will be sealed in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. In the celestial glory there are 3 heavens or degrees, and in order to obtain the highest, a man must enter into this holy order of the priesthood, meaning the new and everlasting covenant of marriage, and if he does not, he cannot obtain it. Notice there's no monogamy here. It was removed. so that Brigham can then set it up for Section 132, which he also added. But if you're not going to bother to study the Joseph Smith papers, which are the authoritative source for which this church will not quote from, will not make any changes from, you know, you can't just ignore it and hope it goes away. And I know that's what you do. My mom told me that. Out of sight, out of mind. Just ignore the kids who bully you at school and they'll go away. No, they don't. No, they don't. Alrighty. And so, yes, Mormons are sexually abused. Severely sexually abused. You are not allowed to think sex, which all of us do. Because if we didn't think sexy thoughts, the human race would cease to exist. Men would have no desire for women. Women would have no desire for men, and they'd be going about their own way. There wouldn't be any of them in the first place to go about their own way. Our bodies are specifically designed for sexy thoughts. And yet the church abuses all of us and says, you will be punished, you will be excommunicated, you will be disciplined, disfellowshipped, put on probation, whatever level of thinking you had, and you've got to go into graphic detail with your bishop about it so that he can ensure the right punishment for you. And then, you know, yeah, if you delve into touchy-touchy, which I learned petting finally, giving a woman a massage, touching her on her shoulder, saying, hey, have you gotten the TPX forms for me? I'm going to Human Resources and calling rape. But yes, this is what it does to Mormons. They get obsessed with all forms of sexy stuff. And so then you get the extremism of Mormons who mock it. And so then they go in to do orgies. And they get STDs, and they do drugs, and they overdose, and then they worship Lucifer. And so then the Mormons are scared. Oh no, I don't want to have sexy thoughts. I gotta keep praying. Gotta keep studying my scriptures. Oh, I gotta staple the Songs of Solomon. Oh, I gotta staple the story of Tamar. Oh, I gotta staple Jesus and the adulterous woman. Oh, I gotta staple all the Bible. Oh, the Book of Mormon too. It's all porn. I'm getting sexy thoughts. That brought up Kelvin. On my mission in Newburgh, New York, with Mark Augustine, the betrayer. What an ass. He wanted me to take away his agency and tell him how to do his mission. To say, we're going door knocking. Follow me. We're now gonna stand on the street corner. We're now gonna call members of the church to repentance and feed us. And so the ass was going to the mission president every single day, doing splits with zone leaders. And so, anyway, but there was one time where in our book we had an investigator file from previous missionaries, and it had flaming written over it. And I didn't know what that was. We just finished the 80s of homophobia. So my peers were saying everything and anything is gay. Oh, you listen to music? You're gay. You wear clothes? You're gay. You speak? You're gay. You're a man? You're gay. You can't ignore them and hope they go away. Doesn't work. Cannot be saved in ignorance. And so he called. He was curious to see what it meant, and talked to Kelvin on the phone and asked if we could meet with him, and he invited us over, and so we came over, and there was several guys, 3 or 4, that were all lying on each other on the couch watching a Rambo movie. And so I know about Rambo. Gay stuff, no. Rambo, yes. I had heard my peers accuse certain singing bands of being gay, but, you know, I'm not going to watch them to prove it. I'm not going to catch them in the act like that adulterous woman brought to Jesus. We caught her in the act. We got it all on video. And we uploaded it on YouTube. And then they banned our channel with the video. And so we are talking with him in the kitchen, and on their chalkboard that they had, which was intended for you write food items that need to be purchased at the grocery store, I guess. Instead, they had a picture of a penis. The other guy that was in the kitchen with Kelvin, he saw that we were missionaries with the name tags of Jesus, and smite them down in lightning bolts and thunder and all that stuff. But I watched as we came into the kitchen, he turned the chalkboard around to hide it from us. And and after talking with him for a little bit, Kelvin invites us over for dinner another night. And so we said yes, but then when we get back to the apartment, Mark Augustine is having a homophobic attack. He's just freaking out and spasming, and he calls the district leader, which was he's the DJ for little girls, little kids in this valley, who enslaves his workers, of which there were some who revolted and branched off to become their own DJ service. Stephen Ames. And so Stephen says that he would go. And so Stephen goes with me to the dinner appointment. And it was stuffed cabbage. And it was okay. And cabbage, kind of bland. You know, I want flavor. I gotta drown my food. You know, despite the Schoolhouse Rock song that says don't drown your food. No. With a mother who makes bland food all the time, yeah, I definitely had to pour on the ketchup, mustard, salad dressing, salt, anything, so that I can taste my food finally. And so yes, I'll eat broccoli as long as it's smothered in cheese sauce. So, you know, and And so, yeah, I came back and Ames confirmed, yeah, they're gay. And then Mark Augustine had gotten colored pens and colored in yellow and red to make it a flame of flame, and then put gay also on the investigator record. And so, yeah, what an ass. And so he got his revenge by helping the church have me disappeared for 6 years of my life, simply because I petitioned the government for a redress of grievances. Therefore, I'm the bad guy and the terrorist, and was disappeared, denied due process, every single law violated to have me disappeared for 6 years of my life. All because I'm a translator, and the church isn't. So, there you have it. This went way too long telling you my extra missionary story. I put it at the end so that those who don't want to listen to it can run away and hide and hope I go away.